in
Welcome back. Controversial hate preacher Zakir Naik has been invited to the FIFA World Cup 2022. Qatar says the government has not officially invited him there. It's at the behest of an NGO who has sponsored him. The move has sparked massive outrage here in India. Zakir Naik is banned and is a fugitive here in India at a time when Delhi has been very vocal about hate speeches given by Zakir Naik. Doha seems to have rolled out the red carpet. He will be giving religious sermons during the course of the FIFA World Cup. Now, the same man is involved in money laundering cases here in India. He's also a most wanted person in Bangladesh. The big question we're asking tonight, why invite a man known for his anti-Hindu and anti-India views to an international platform? Will the government of India confront Qatar and ask them to remove Zakir Naik from that country? All right, joining us here in our studios, Firoz Bakth Ahmed is former Chancellor of the Maulana Azad National Urdu University, Atiq Ur Rehman, Islamic scholar, Wasiq Wasiq is a writer and commentator and a counter-extremist analyst, and Ashok Sajjanhar, former diplomat, also joining us. Mr. Firoz Bakth Ahmed, should the government of India confront the government of Qatar and ask how and why a most wanted man, a hate preacher, is being invited there as a guest for the Football World Cup, even if the government of Qatar is saying it's not an official visit where the government of Qatar has invited him. Somebody in an individual capacity has invited him.
Absolutely, Mr. Jacob. And I would also like to, ask from the government of India as to why our Vice President, Mr. Jagdeep Dhankar, he shared the platform, he shared the function with that man who has been banned not only in India, since 2016, but in many other countries. The person who actually incites, provokes, misleads and misguides the younger generation of Indian Muslims and others, why was he invited by these people? Now, he said, I heard one of his videos in another channel, he said, football, according to some Islamic expert, is haram. I also think it is haram. Now, what kind of, ludicrous and funny things he's saying? I mean, there is no connect between football, Islam, Hadith, and in fact, he has no proof from the Holy Qur'an or from the 20,000 Hadiths, which actually say not only football, any other sport which is haram. And these are the people who say when Sania Mirza plays in Hyderabad, they say she should play in burqa. When Tajammul Hussain, who is actually the world kickboxing gold medalist and world champion, they say, okay, she should also wear a burqa and a hijab.
Okay.
Now, what kind of people are these? Negative. And finally, just give me 5 more seconds, Zakka Sahab. Qatar is a country which I do not know. When Nupur said something which was very, very bad in taste against Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, they in fact, they did away all the stuff of India from their malls and markets.
Yeah.
Now they are inviting the same man. I do not know whether they are compensating, but this is not done.
Atiq,
I have, in my personal capacity, will write to the ambassador of Qatar in Delhi that they should not allow this man for these religious sermons and homilies.
Atiq Ur Rehman, the question is that what Mr. Bakht said is right. When the Nupur Sharma episode happened, and none of us here on the panel are justifying what she said, but Qatar was the first country that summoned the Indian ambassador. There was this boycott Indian products movement that had started there. They were at the forefront of making the Nupur issue an international one. If they can be holier than thou and sanctimonious, if you will, about the Nupur Sharma episode, then why should India take this lying low? I mean, they can say that he was not a government invitee, Atiq Ur Rehman, but that doesn't cut ice. He was there in the opening ceremony.
Qatar also gave refuge
Yeah,
to
let me ask Atiq Ur Rehman, please. Yeah, let me ask Atiq Ur Rehman. Mr. Bakht, please.
Hindu
Mr.
gods,
Bakht,
this is
let me
very
ask Atiq Ur
important.
Rehman, please. Thank you.
Zakka, this is very important. This is very important, Zakka. On the Nupur Sharma episode, I had on all the platforms said that she should be pardoned. Equally, I would say that Zakir Naik getting invited at FIFA, either officially, unofficially, he should be heard by the people if he repeats the offences. And I repeat, if he repeats the offences against other gods and goddesses, he is committing a crime, because Qur'an calls for that no other god should be reviled. Allah commands, no other gods be reviled, because in ignorance your God would be reviled. So he is against the tenets of Islam. Let him speak. If he repeats the offences, you cannot punish a person in perpetuity in the same manner as I called for pardoning Nupur Sharma. What she said, she was right within her rights.
Okay.
Let her be explained the correct position of Islam and Prophet.
Let me ask Ashok Sajjanhar. You know, the point is, Qatar is saying that, look, this was not an official invite. The government of Qatar has not invited him. He's there because some NGO has sponsored him and he's come there to watch the World Cup and also give religious sermons during the time of the World Cup. Does that cut ice, Mr. Sajjanhar, as a former diplomat? Should India diplomatically take this up with Qatar?
Thank you very much, Zakka. I don't think it cuts any ice because, it is the responsibility for hosting the World Cup has been given to Qatar, the country. It has not been given to an NGO. So any platform that is being provided to this person to address visitors and delegates and teams that have come from outside, that is the responsibility of the Qataris government. An NGO might have invited him, but obviously any NGO which does not receive the patronage of the government cannot provide a platform where he is going around. And I read a report also, he has converted some people to Islam. So I don't know what is really happening. Is it for preaching? Is it for proselytization? What is it that he has been invited to do there? So definitely, I think this is most condemnable. This is deplorable. The Indian government
can
should
I ask you one
take
thing?
Up.
When the Nupur Sharma episode happened, Qatar, issued a démarche to the Indian ambassador and asked for an explanation. The Indian government at that time said they were trying to make the distinction that she didn't represent the government. She was a party spokesperson. Here, can the Indian government also say, this distinction that government did not invite him, but some NGO did, that's rather tenuous. Should India summon the Qatar ambassador and ask for an explanation?
I don't think that, this argument holds water at all, because this is an official function of the government of Qatar.
Yes.
After all, they have invested billions and billions of dollars in constructing all these stadia, preparing all these, villages for the FIFA Cup teams, etc., etc. So I don't think they can really wash their hands off that, we have nothing to do with this visit. After all, ensuring security, making all the other logistical arrangements and bandobast, that is the responsibility of
give me a moment. Wasiq is also waiting. Wasiq, questions are also being asked. Mr. Zakir Naik is not just a wanted man, a fugitive here in India. He's also wanted in Bangladesh, because the people who carried out the Dhaka cafe attack had said that they were inspired by his speeches, and so he's wanted for that attack in Bangladesh as well. Malaysia, where he had sought refuge, had at that time said that till his cases are adjudicated upon, his extradition matters are adjudicated upon, he will not be allowed to travel. How did the government of Malaysia, the aviation authorities in Malaysia, allow Zakir Naik to travel as though he's a free man? He's not.
Well, absolutely, he's not a free man. In fact, he's a wanted fugitive, and the way that the Malaysian government and the Qatari government have acted is nothing more than a slap in the face for Bharat. Look, this guy has been accused of money laundering and hate speech, and these are serious allegations to which he should answer for. And the fact of the matter is, Bharat provides a constitutional right for the accused to defend themselves. Now, either Naik doesn't believe in secular laws, which probably doesn't come as a surprise, or there is some truth to these claims. And he knows that if he would get punished appropriately and proportionately in Bharat if found guilty, and it's very likely that he would be found guilty. Now, one of the points that you made is that the Qatari government didn't officially invite him. That's fine, but they can officially extradite him back to Bharat. And the fact that they're not doing that, and the fact that the Bharat government aren't putting pressure on there, speaks volume. We need to get this guy back into Bharat and put him on trial because he is a wanted fugitive.
Now, the argument that's being made, Mr. Bakht, is that the Interpol Red Corner notice that India had sought against this man did not come through. Interpol found some technicality and they said, we're not issuing a Red Corner notice against him. Therefore, government of Malaysia and government of Qatar can argue that he's free to travel.
See, I am not going into the hobnobbing of this red corner, black corner or blue corner, whatever it is. Since he has been banned in 5 or 6 countries, India included, and certain other countries included, he should not have been allowed to travel. However, all over the world, and especially in India, there is a lobby that supports the movement of this man. Now, this man is very arrogant, and because of him, Islam and Muslims are under scanner, right? Because the way he says, oh, Islam is the best religion, this verse says this, so therefore the verse of that particular scripture, it is denied. Now, this is not the way. This is not the way of Prophet Muhammad. And we Muslims all over India and all over the world, in Qatar also, we are not going to learn our Islam from Zakir Naik or any other person like him, like the Owaisi brothers. We are going to learn it from Allah, from Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and the Holy Qur'an. I do not know. It is very ludicrous and ridiculous on the part of Qatar government, though they have done a remarkable thing. This is the largest, biggest sporting event. And one more thing, when there was World Cup in England or in Italy, they never invited the Pope. They never invited anyone from the church. When such competitions are held in India, they don't invite Guru Ramdev. They do not invite some people connected with religion. I respect and regard religion because I also come from the family of Maulana Abul Kalam Azad, who was a great person as far as religion is concerned. But football and religion has nothing to do. In spite of the fact, I do not know when this man has said that football is haram. What is all this happening in Qatar?
Atiq Ur Rehman, why should, if you're there, why should religion and sport be mixed? Atiq Ur Rehman, the point is that if you want to keep sport, play sport for sports reason. Why? There's no reason why you should bring in religion into that. What is this whole idea about giving religious sermons during the course of the World Cup? It's not religious sermons that's how Doha bid and won the chance to host the FIFA World Cup. It was to showcase the country, to showcase their infrastructure, their sporting developments, their sporting talent, not for religious sermons.
Zakka, this can be best explained by the Qatar government or any of the diplomats. But one point we are missing over here, as you asked initially, this is a good chance to expose Zakir Naik if he is, preaching in a radical sense. Let him preach there. Let him have his say. Then the world will watch. If he is repeating the offences against any of the gods of either Christians or other faiths, we can expose him. Let him have a platform. Diplomatically, we are too strong to handle such things. Let him have his say.
Ashok Sajjanhar, what about the view, and maybe I don't necessarily agree with this, but Mr. Bakht's view was, why should the Vice President, particularly when the Vice President was on an official visit, he's India's representative for the opening ceremony, he was there as part of the audience, to have this kind of a fugitive, a most wanted man as also part of the audience. India should have raised a diplomatic stinker. If nothing else, the Vice President should have walked out.
I don't know, Zakka, whether a walkout under those circumstances would have been appropriate, because I don't even know whether the Vice President would have known that Zakir Naik is going to be present there, or where is he going to be present, because if he is, meaning is he an official invitee there? I don't think that there would have been advance information that would have been available. He has gone to represent a country, and I think it's basically the responsibility, in my view, of the Qataris government to make sure that its guests are not put in any uncomfortable position. After all, this man, to say the least, he's a very controversial figure. As it's been said, it's not only in India, but so many other countries that his sermons are banned. You mentioned about
I want to ask one question. An equivalent would be yesterday at the opening ceremony. I think Mohammed bin Salman, the Saudi Crown Prince, was one of the chief guests. He was the big guest of honor, as it were. If the government of Qatar or NGO or whoever it was to invite the family of Jamal Khashoggi as part of the audience, would the Saudis brook it?
Absolutely. I think you have a very valid point here. Meaning, of course, inviting MBS and, extending all this, giving him the chief guest status, etc., etc. That is a political decision they have made because of the fact that all the Gulf countries had ostracized Qatar a few years ago in 2017 or something. So this was their way of also making up with the Gulf countries, particularly with Saudi and this. So I think it is very insensitive on their part, to say the least. And why invite such a controversial person for saying anything of this nature, even if you want him to talk about religion, which is definitely when people say sports
Mr. Bhatt here in the studios has a question.
Similarly, sports and religion cannot be mixed also, because sends out a very wrong message.
A very humble question for you. You are a very senior diplomat. You have served the nation in maybe quite a few countries. But my question is very straightforward. You just said that the Qatari government had its own way. Fine, well said, right? They invited him. He is a person who is not in the good books of India. At the same time, India also, sir, has its own way. India could have registered her protest that no, this is a man who has been banned for many unwanted activities, maybe terror activities, maybe for provoking
Zakka, you want me to respond to that question?
So India could have at least registered a written protest against this man with the government of Qatar. What are your views on this, sir?
Zakka, would you want me to respond to that?
Yes, please, yes.
Okay, let me respond. The last word on this issue has not been written so far. I'm sure that the Indian government is going to take it up. I am quite certain that Indian government is not going to take it lying down. Remember, my response to the first question was definitely the Indian government should take it up with the Qatar government that, this is being very insensitive and unmindful of Indian laws and Indian the situation, the fact that he is a wanted person. He is wanted for money laundering. He is wanted by ED, by the Enforcement Directorate and many other agencies. Okay. So I don't think that the Indian government is going to let it pass.
I'll give Wasiq the final word. Does it also call or bring to attention the need for countries around the world to ensure that most wanted folks, whether it is for financial crimes, whether it is for spreading hate speeches, who seek refuge in other countries, in third countries, there has to be a common minimum mechanism. Depending on Interpol, red corner notices is not going to cut it, because Interpol is stuck in this whole bureaucratic process. And in any case, you have red corner notices against all kinds of suspicious characters, but they've sought refuge. Let's say, for example, a Nirav Modi and a Vijay Mallya have sought refuge in England. A Zakir Naik has sought refuge in Malaysia. Does this call for a common, acceptable code amongst countries around the world, that if there are most wanted fugitives running away from the law in one country, then all countries should do what is required to ensure that he or she faces justice in the country where the said crime was said to have happened?
Yeah, well, absolutely. I think Atiq Ur Rehman made a interesting point that if he's given a platform, then we can expose him. But he has been given a platform and he is being exposed. He's already got substantial evidence against him for being a preacher, an alleged preacher of hate. And the fact that we need those common boundaries between these nations who are fighting against extremism, terrorism, whether it's from the Muslim Brotherhood or ISIS or Boko Haram, we need to have that common mechanism. The fact that Qatar government didn't invite him but could do something about him being there and not giving him the platform speaks volumes in terms of where their loyalties lies in terms of dealing with extremism and terrorism. So I think there are serious questions that need to be asked of the Qatari government and how serious they are in terms of dealing with extremism and terrorism. Because at the moment, it doesn't seem like that.
The extradition matter is still pending before a court of law in Malaysia. It was incumbent upon the Malaysian government to ensure that that matter is first adjudicated upon and then he be allowed to travel. The fact that he was allowed to travel even when an extradition matter is pending before a court of law there simply shows that even the Malaysian government couldn't care less.
Precisely, and that's the thing. If Qatar, are not taking Bharat seriously, it doesn't look like Malaysia either taking him seriously, and it's just showing what a joke this is and how they're legitimizing this person who is alleged to be a hate preacher and has inspired terrorist attacks.
Okay, I'll leave it at that. Thank you very much to all our guests. At the very least, not only because of the fact that Qatar was at the forefront of the summoning of the Indian ambassadors and others when the Nupur Sharma episode happened, but also for the fact that you can't have double standards. You can't have a case where the government of Malaysia, the government of Qatar think that inviting a man who's a fugitive, not just here in India but also in Bangladesh, is okay, it's kosher, but India should not react to it. That is absolutely not acceptable, not in this day and age. That's a wrap. Shakil joining you with News Episode.